New Age deception number 1 is ignore the negative. And I put negative in quotes because the way that this word is being used is as, again, a dirty word. That you should never look at what's wrong in the world. That's going to bring you more of what's wrong. And this is nonsense. So I put a picture of monkeys doing the traditional hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. We don't want to hear what's wrong, we don't want to look at that, and we don't want to say it to others. I don't want to learn what's wrong by hearing it or seeing it, and God forbid I don't want to tell other people the problems. This is the problem. That so many people buy into this. Don't ever talk about religion or politics. Don't talk about the negative. That'll bring more of it to you. That is not how the laws of attraction operate. And anybody who buys into that total nonsense has bought a bill of goods. And the bill of goods you bought it from was from a Luciferian. A dark Luciferian, I should say. You bought it from people who are in the dark occult, selling you a bunch of crap nonsense that has absolutely nothing to do with how the real laws of attraction work. You want to learn how the real laws of attraction work? Listen to my podcast about natural law. Come and attend the natural law seminar in Philadelphia. And you'll learn the real laws of attraction. Not some watered down, namby-pamby nonsense version peddled by Satanists. Trying to get naive people who haven't grown up and haven't become streetwise to what's going on in their world. Believing and hanging on every word that they peddle. And it's disgusting. So let's move on to slide number 27. This deception works like this. Many New Age deceivers want to convince you that you, quote unquote, give power to something that is harmful simply by putting your attention upon it and becoming aware of its existence. Therefore, you should never pay attention to or talk about anything that is, quote unquote, negative. Ignore the negative. And again, this is not how the laws of attraction work. You do not bring more things that are negative by talking about what's wrong in the world and telling people that this should not continue and it should be corrected. How you bring on more negativity is by refusing to do that. By ignorance, by ignoring what is actually there and what is happening and what is taking place. When you ignore that, and you refuse to acknowledge it, you refuse to acknowledge truth, what is actually happening in the world, you refuse to talk about why that is happening, of course, the causal factors that led to that condition and that behavior, and you refuse to tell that to other people by speaking that knowledge into existence, that's why you're going to get more of it. That's why. So I depict in slide number 28 now the concept of ignoring the negative as putting your head in the sand like the proverbial ostrich. I'm going to ignore reality and not acknowledge how it actually really works. I'm going to be told by people that I think are gurus or spiritual teachers, ignore what's really there. Don't really talk about that. Oh, you'll just get more of that if you expose it. No, you'll get more of it if you don't expose it. If people can't see what evil actually is because they aren't talking about it, that's why we're getting more of it. It's exactly what's going on. Anybody with a modicum of common sense left in their brain can understand that. We're not calling anybody on their wrongdoing. We're not raising our children in a moral capacity. We're not telling them, no, this is wrong behavior. Look at that. That's what you shouldn't do. That's wrong. No, because we're told never say, no, don't do that to people. Only tell them what they should do. Nonsense. The problem is people aren't morally raising the young and telling them what is wrong, what is not a right. You need to know what rights are not in order to know what rights are. The apophatic inquiry method is always going to be more powerful than trying to tell somebody, here's what you should do. Do this, do this, do this. You need to explain, here's why you shouldn't do this, because of what you'll be manifesting and creating in the world, even for yourself. Because we are all connected, and we are all tied together. And this is the reason, this is the underlying causal factor why you should not behave that way, why that is an immoral behavior. And people are loath to do that work, as we're going to talk about later. So, what I said in the presentation originally, when I gave it at the Free Your Mind 2 conference, is when you're on your knees in this position, please take note that when your head is in the sand, you're on your knees with your ass in the air. In order to put your head in the sand, you have to be on your knees with your ass in the air. Bowing down and accepting authority and getting ready to take it in the rear end. Okay? That's the position that you put yourself in when you ignore something. It's almost like it's amazing that the body works out like that. In order to put your head underneath the ground, the only real way, unless you were completely standing upright on your head, but to do that willingly yourself, you have to be on your knees with your ass in the air. It's almost synchronistic that that's how the body would be designed. Like God is telling you something. I designed the body in such a way so that in order to put your head underneath the sand, you got to be on your knees with your ass sticking up. It's beautifully poetic in many ways for people that can, appreciate that little bit of irony. So, moving on, actually not moving on because we're going to stay on this one aspect of the deception. But this is bullshit. That is bullshit. The whole notion that we should ignore the negative. This is New Age bullshit number 1. Slide number 29 has the bullshit button. I'll add the sound effects in for it, in the editing of the podcast. It's just unbelievable that people think that that people have been convinced into thinking that you're going to generate more negativity by talking about the things that are wrong that need to be corrected in the world. And this is why New Agers, these cowards, won't talk about the control system, won't talk about the illegitimate nature of slavery and government. They won't talk about the abuses, the endless train of abuses of this government, the police state that is not encroaching, it's already here. And they think they're going to help people to get out of it. They think they're doing a service to people by ignoring an entire body of information that is real, that is true, that is happening. No, I beg to differ, ladies and gentlemen. The people who think that way are the ones who are creating and perpetuating the manifestation of that dynamic. So let's correct this erroneous claim that we should ignore the negative. The New Age correction number 1. Seeing the negative for that which it actually is creates an ability within us to steel ourselves against its harmful effects. In other words, you have to know the causal factors and the harm that is imminent as a result of those causal factors. How did you go awry? How did you get to this condition? How did you get to this situation? You need to look at that. You need to look at that shadow material. That's not there to be ignored. You'll never understand the solution unless you deal with that shadow material. This is about going down into the nested subconscious psychological areas of the human psyche and bringing up that trauma to a conscious level and working with it and healing it. But people are loath to do that work because it's not easy. So when we do that, we are steeling ourselves against the harmful effects of this negative situation. And possibly we can even avert the effects entirely. If you see something coming, you can take action against it. You could do something that is positive and powerful, empowering, so that you will not be affected in a harmful way. When you ignore it, it's going to blindside you, like a tornado that you don't see coming. The next slide, number 31, refusing to look at critical information just because it makes you feel uncomfortable or scared is willfully choosing to remain in a state of ignorance. Ignorance. And therefore to remain unconscious. Unconscious. The people who think they're so awake in the New Age movement, you're not awake at all. You're totally asleep. You are unconscious because you are not talking about what's really taking place in the world. You're living in a fantasy land where everything is happy-go-lucky and nothing is bad. Look, I'm going to go and directly insult this person because, quite frankly, they're a jackass who deserves to be insulted. Okay? A woman who attended the Free Your Mind 2 conference, and I don't really care who this offends, her personally, I don't care. I'm going to say, when I see a jackass, I'm going to call them a jackass. Somebody who attended, and you'll see it on the films, and because she asked, made a comment at the Gathering of the Minds discussion panel, that there's no such thing as a negative experience. Actually said that. There's no such thing as a negative experience. Everything is just an experience. The level of naivete and illness that someone has to be in to have their mind worked into this state is so staggering that, like I said, to the Satanists and Luciferians who told me they were going to be putting information like this into the world through the New Age movement, all I can say is, wow, I can't even believe you got it done. I never would have thought it possible. Congratulations are in order in some ways. Like, I would shake your hand as an opponent. Not because I really respect your level of mental sickness and illness and psychopathy, but I wouldn't have even thought it would be possible to make someone's mind that dumb. To dumb someone down to that level and simultaneously get them to think that they know what real spirituality is about. Just brilliantly well done is all I can say. That's all, and I feel horrifically sad to have to admit that, but nonetheless, this is the level of deception that we're up against, and how crafty it is, and how well they're able to carry out what they say they're going to carry out. Because they have created people exactly as they say they're going to create them. This is a golem, an animated creature made by the dark occultist. That's what that person is. Let me tell you something, lady. Pedophilia is happening. And that's not just an experience. The murder of children is happening. And that's not just an experience. That's called evil. And you need to get through your brainwashed religious New Age bullshit skull that evil exists and is operating all around us. Because you're not streetwise. You're a naive child who's bought something that somebody else sold you that you want to hear. You don't want to hear what the truth is. If you're in a rape room being tortured by dark occultists, you wouldn't be saying it's just an experience. Trust me. You wouldn't be saying that. So get over yourself and get out of this nonsense ego trance that is the New Age movement, that is feeding you lie after lie after lie after lie after lie. and telling you that it's spiritual. Telling you you're awake because you think that child pedophilia, rape, and murder is not bad. We're judging it when we say it's bad, it's negative. It shouldn't be, it shouldn't exist. You want to talk about having your head in the sand? It's not in the sand, it's up your ass is where it's at. And anybody who promulgates that nonsense, that's where your head is too. No, because that experience hasn't been yours. So you won't say that's evil and it shouldn't happen. And we should stop it by whatever force has to be used to stop it. Which is called taking right defensive action when somebody's rights and life are being violated. You haven't learned a thing about what spirituality is. You haven't learned a thing about what right and wrong are. So don't lie and tell anybody else you're a spiritual person and you know what real spirituality is, making an asinine statement like that. Because you don't know the first thing about them. And I'll be the one to tell you that you don't. If nobody else will, I'll tell you that, and I just did. And I hope she hears it and listens to this. I don't know her name, but whatever. I don't really want to be honest. You know, and the fact that other people believe this bullshit, it's a disgrace.